Well, we couldn't ask for much of a better start, as the Vegas Golden Knights, on the night that they raised the banner commemorating their 2023 Stanley Cup victory, defeat the Seattle Kraken in Game 1 of the regular season by a final score of 4-1. Now, there was a lot of exciting things that went into this game, and there was a lot of things that weren't overly great about this game, especially from an injury standpoint. I referenced it in my last video how the Golden Knights were rocked with injury again, and how there were still some question marks going into opening night. Well, now that opening night's come and gone, I can say that I was unfortunately correct. Golden Knights were missing a third of their starting D-core, with Zach Whitecloud and Alec Martinez out for the opening night, being replaced by Ben Hutton and Braden Pahal, both of which have NHL experience, both of which played in the playoffs last year, and both of which are on the Stanley Cup. The Golden Knights, in this case, actually are the first team since the 2013 LA Kings to start the year with everybody on their starting roster having won the Stanley Cup. So that's rarefied air, as the LA Kings built a little bit of a dynasty in the early 2010s, winning 2 Stanley Cups in 3 years. Now I'm hoping the Golden Knights go back-to-back, but that's neither here nor there. Ultimately, the pregame ceremony was absolutely amazing. Mark Stone skating out of the tunnel with the Stanley Cup, skating around the ice, and then ultimately hitting the jackpot on a slot machine, thus revealing the banner to the world. And holy moly, it is a very, very pretty banner. Very colorful. It's very detailed, and it's Vegas. It's gold. It's really, really gold. But it looks very good, and so there's not really much to complain about there. And then the game has to start. The Stanley Cup is taken off the ice, and everybody in attendance knows that that is the last time that the Golden Knights will be the Stanley Cup champions. Now they're the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and the title defense is underway. And at the beginning of this game against the Seattle Kraken, which is crazy that we play the Kraken, this is the second time in 3 years the Seattle Kraken have opened their season against the Golden Knights in Las Vegas, but I think that's just because expansion teams, I guess. I don't make the schedule, although I totally wish I did. The Seattle Kraken actually looked like they were the better team for large chunks of this game, which is crazy to think about, but that's just how they were. They're a tough team. They play with a lot of fire. They play with really good passing, and that was on full display for the first few minutes of the game, as I believe they landed the first 5 shots of the game. But ultimately, this Golden Knights team has a lot of talent. They've got a lot of calm, cool collectedness, and they kind of learned what they need to do to turn it up and hit the gas when they need to at the start of a game through the last 2 preseason games, getting off to a slow start and then hitting the afterburners in the second and third period. They decided to hit the afterburners early, as a partial 3-on-2 would go the Golden Knights' way. Breaking into the offensive zone, Mark Stone would send a seam pass across to Brett Howden on the near boards, who would catch Chandler Stevenson just bolting back door, and he tips it just inside the post of Grubauer. And lo and behold, the Golden Knights are shooting 100% at this point in the season, as the first shot on net of the Golden Knights season is a goal. And the Fortress is going absolutely ballistic, as is to be expected. And ultimately, despite getting that goal, the Golden Knights were still getting drastically outplayed. And one would think, okay, it's going to take a bounce. The Kraken are going to score eventually. And while, yes, in real time it looked like the Kraken scored, they just didn't score on the right net. As Tanev got the puck in the slot, this was about 7 minutes into the game. I believe 7 minutes into the game, 10 minutes into the game. It all kind of blends together for how much fun this game was to watch as a Golden Knights fan. Tanev takes the puck and he goes to fire it behind the net. And ultimately, in real time, it looks like he shot it straight in the net past Grubauer. And so I'm falling off my couch laughing at this point, because I thought, oh my God, Tanev just scored an own goal. But on replay, Jonathan Marchessault, the Conn Smythe winner, just happened to throw his stick into the path of the puck at that moment and tip it past Grubauer, giving the Golden Knights a 2-0 lead. And that, mercifully, is where the period would end. However, the Golden Knights did take a couple of penalties in that first period. They still looked like they were a decent team. Unfortunately, the Kraken were definitely the better team for large chunks of that first period. And so while getting outplayed, the Golden Knights and their high-end talent managed to find a way to put them ahead 2-0 as the puck dropped for the second period. Now, getting out to a good start in the second period would have been paramount for the Golden Knights, obviously, and it's important to get off to a good start, especially at home, keep the energy going. And that's kind of what happened. Braden McNabb gets a puck behind the net about 4 or 5 minutes into the period, and he's just kind of skating along the boards, carrying the puck behind him on his forehand. It's like dragging behind his feet a little bit. He sees Ivan Barbashev bolting down the ice, and he hits him with an absolute seed of a pass. Like, it was ridiculous how tight the window was for Barbashev to get there. Barbashev's got a defender draped all over him. I'm pretty sure he drew a penalty, but he found a way to put his body between the defender and the puck, and with a couple of stick handles and then a shot, roofs it past Grubauer to make the score 3-0 Golden Knights, and the Fortress goes even more ballistic. Unfortunately for the Golden Knights, this is where the game would kind of start to take a turn. Not in the negative sense, as they won the game, but there was a little bit of a moment where things got a little bit dicey. The Golden Knights got into a little bit of penalty trouble in the second period and ultimately would give up the next goal. Jared McCann would score on a very fluky bounce. The Kraken went to center it from behind the net to the front of the net, and it wound up hitting Jonathan Marchessault in the skates, directing right to McCann in the high slot, who wristed it past Hill. Even though Hill got a piece of it, he didn't get enough of a piece of it, and it wound up going in. So now it's 3-1. And the Golden Knights would again take another penalty late in the period. However, they would also get 2 power plays of their own, and they'd look okay. They wouldn't be super threatening because the power play still needs some work, but it's the first game of the season, so I'll give them a break. Ultimately, the final score of that second period would end at 3-1. And the Golden Knights looked a lot better in that second period, despite giving up their first goal of the year and breaking Adin Hill's bid for an opening night shutout and for the second straight opening night shutout. Crazy statistic to come out of the first period that I just remembered, because I'm doing this all in one take. This is the 4th home opener in a row that Jonathan Marchessault has scored a goal, and 5 of 7 home openers all time for the Golden Knights. What a stat. What a guy. And the way that he scored was amazing back in the first period. And so it's just fitting that he's the one that gets the season underway, what wound up being the game-winning goal. Now, there was a moment where it almost wasn't the game-winning goal, and this is a moment where I'm not overly proud of what happened. About 5 minutes into the third period, the Seattle Kraken are pushing. They're looking very good. Golden Knights had a couple of offensive opportunities, but nothing really, 10 bell. Grubauer didn't really have to work for it, because at this point, Grubauer was the only one keeping the Kraken in this game with how many high-quality chances the Golden Knights had in the second period, and ultimately even later in the first period. But ultimately, there would be kind of a crazy play in center ice, and Brett Howden would line up Tanev and would just happen to hit him in the head with his shoulder. Tanev goes down in a heap. Brett Howden gets a 5-minute major and a match penalty. And I don't know if there's a suspension looming for him, but it wouldn't shock me if he at least gets a call from the league office. But it also wouldn't surprise me if he gets suspended, which is a little bit of a bummer. The fact of the matter is the Golden Knights have to kill a 5-minute major. And at the time, I was a little bit worried about it, but then I remembered, wait a second, this team, or basically this exact team, only gave up 1 goal to Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers in a playoff 5-minute major in the same building. So the odds of the Golden Knights getting out of this one felt pretty okay, and 5 minutes turned to 4 minutes, turned to 3 minutes, and then Hill made a really big save, followed by another really big save on a defensive breakdown, and 3 minutes turned to 2 minutes, turned to 1 minute, turned to the penalty being killed. And unfortunately, the Golden Knights were going to have to play shorthanded, as obviously Howden got kicked out of the game. But Will Carrier also got injured in the second period and hadn't played for a while, so the Golden Knights had to play the last 10 minutes of the game, plus that penalty kill for 5 minutes, down 2 forwards. So not ideal, especially because those are 2 stronger forwards. It allowed Paul Cotter to get a lot of ice time, and allowed Ben Hutton to get a lot of ice time, and allowed Braden Pahal to get a lot of ice time to try and balance out the numbers a little bit and ultimately make it work. And mercifully for the Golden Knights, they were able to do so as they got through that 5-minute major without allowing much more than like 2 or 3 shots on net, which was a solid penalty kill. Golden Knights wound up being perfect on the penalty kill to open the season, even though they took entirely too many penalties. I think it was like 4. And they went 0 for on the power play. So starting off first in penalty kills and 32nd in penalty, or first in penalty kills, 32nd in power plays. Great start. But ultimately, time would continue to wind down. The Kraken would continue to force the issue. And it was at this moment where I started to feel, okay, things are okay. But then it dawned on me. The Golden Knights were the worst team last year in terms of goals against 6-on-5 with the other team's goalie. I believe they gave up something like 13 and led the league by a pretty healthy margin. And the game's still close, which means we're still going to get a 6-on-5 situation. And with about a minute and a half to go, we did get that 6-on-5 situation as Grubauer went to the bench for the extra attacker. And thank goodness, because there was a couple of opportunities for the Golden Knights early. I believe Pietrangelo missed the open net, ultimately resulted in icing. And then on the ensuing faceoff, the Golden Knights were able to kind of get out of trouble, but ultimately Hill had to make a couple of saves with the goalie out. And then Jack Eichel takes the puck off of a lost faceoff, steals it at the blue line, fires it down, and scores the empty netter to secure the 4-1 win on banner-raising night. And I guess this just continues the trend. The Golden Knights have not been out of the playoffs picture for 2 years now, the year plus one game. And we're going to hope that it continues to be that way, as it's very nice to win. It's great to win. But obviously, as the book says, and I'm still trying to get my hands on it, it hurts to win too. Will Carrier is still out, and we're not sure how long he's going to be out for. Zach Whitecloud and Alec Martinez are week to week. Howden is unknown for the remainder of this early part of the year, pending a suspension. We may be seeing a lot of Pavel Dorofeev or Jacob Demek or Caden Korzak. We're going to see a lot of the youth, and heck, we might even see Brendan Brisson here in a couple of days, which would be a really good opportunity, especially with the quality of opponents the Golden Knights have coming in, with, I believe, the Ducks and the Stars being the next two home games. And we play somebody on Saturday, but I don't remember, or not on Saturday, on Thursday, but I don't remember off the top of my head who it is. But ultimately, what matters is the Golden Knights were able to win on banner-raising night. The in-arena production looked amazing, the banner looks amazing, and now the title defense has begun. That being said, it was an exciting game, and I hope that the next 81 games are equally as exciting, and at least 50 of them go the way that last night went for the Golden Knights. It was a very exciting game, and I am very excited to see what the season has in store. High-end talent looking high-end, with the entire first line recording a goal in the season opener, Barbashev, Marchessault, and Eichel with the empty netter. And, of course, the Stone line looking very good, with Stone and Howden factoring in on the Stevenson goal in the first period. I doubt there will be a moment as funny as the Tanev near own goal for at least a couple of weeks, but hey, I can dream, because that was absolutely spectacular to watch happen live on TV. So yeah, with that being said, it was exciting. Can't wait for the next game, and I will see you guys at that next one.